so much.
Thanks, Justin, and welcome back, everyone, to the third session of After AI 2025. I'm coming to you from Brighton in the UK, and where it's mid-afternoon, and I hope everything is good wherever you are and whatever time of day it is for you. And we have two presentations today. Really excited by them as a pair and the discussion we'll get into in the session. We have a session of an hour. So we'll take each presentation at the beginning, and then we'll have a time for questions at the end. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the question and answer feature, which is at the bottom of the screen on my version of Zoom anyway, and then we'll take those at the end. Okay, great. So we're just going to move to the first presentation. So I'm going to hand over to Leah. Leah, over to you. Oh, and Leah, you're muted at the moment.
Thank you. Is that better?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay, great. All right. My name is Leah Bogan, she, they, and I'm coming to you from George Washington University in Washington, D.C. I look forward to sharing the theoretical framework that inspired this project and how I intend to apply it. And with that, I will share with you Chimera Futurum, Cyborgs of the Mestiza and the Borderlands of AI. In the introduction, I will give an overview of the project's intention, and then section 2, the digital commons as borderlands, building the borderlands. I draw on Gloria Anzaldúa to describe the network borderlands, mestiza consciousness, and how they inform this project. In manifesting the infidel heteroglossia, I describe an interrogation of Donna Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto and how it can be used as a mechanism for global communications and coalition building. For communication as living ecology, I describe how long-distance communication between species is a natural evolutionary inclination. And in section 5, Do Cyborgs Dream of Electric Sheep? I describe the essence of how differential theory, standpoint theory, third world feminism, Black feminism, and systems ecology inspire and inform my own personal reflection and how I intend to bring this project to and work with communities that are interested. In the conclusion, from theory to differential praxis, I will close with final thoughts from Chela Sandoval, as well as dedications. By the late 20th century, our time, a mythic time, we are all chimeras, theorized and fabricated as hybrids of a machine and organism. In short, we are cyborgs. Donna Haraway. Imagine a digital commons built in the margins and thriving within the borderlands of a free and public internet. This is a reimagining of network infrastructure and moderation where Donna Haraway's cyborg emerges as meme, a hybrid consciousness inspired by and existing within Gloria Anzaldúa's borderland and mestiza consciousness. In contrast to the extractive and commodified purposes of AI today, this is a living experiment in alternative AI. The digital commons as borderland, Anzaldúa defines the borderlands as a liminal space arising from both physical, psychological, sexual, and spiritual contexts. Borderlands are sites of tension and ambiguity, an open wound where differential worlds, first and third world, oppressor and oppressed, Anglo and indigenous, meet sometimes in opposition. Borderlands are not constrained to geographical boundaries, but appear wherever cultures, identities, classes, or genders intersect and interact. These borderlands are our birthright and can be realized through the facilitation of a fair and free federated global network. In building the borderlands, this project unfurls in two phases. Phase 1 is the establishment of a decentralized, off-grid, self-sufficient internet powered by solar and wind, using federated server nodes connected via public satellites with a ham radio redundancy. These nodes are self-governed and monitored by their communities, forming a distributed adaptive mesh network rooted in cybernetic principles of feedback and local autonomy through AI-assisted functions. Phase 2 is the implementation of a digital platform, a commons similar to Twitter, run and moderated as a cooperative by teams from each node, with each moderator team utilizing alternative human AI feedback. Scholarship programs financed through a transparent public trust will organize locally informed training programs in both infrastructure and platform. The system rollout centers historically marginalized praxis, Indigenous stewardship, Black feminism, and mestiza consciousness. The central question is, what forms of freedom, coalition, and resilience become possible when the borderlands themselves design, govern, and sustain the digital spaces we share? Cyborg imagery can suggest a way out of the maze of dualisms in which we have explained our bodies and our tools to ourselves. This is a dream not of common language, but of a powerful infidel heteroglossia. Donna Haraway. Infidel heteroglossia in Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto refers to a radical diversity of voices, meanings, and ways of being that openly resist the drive for a single unified common language or identity. As an allegory for the internet, as well as our platforms, it means envisioning the network as federations converging towards liminality, a vibrant borderland where irreverent polyphony, dissent, and hybrid forms thrive. Infidel heteroglossia values messy, unassimilated multiplicity and sees power in persistence of difference. This network will platform a digital commons ungoverned by algorithmic sameness, open to the subversive, the collaborative, and queer possibilities of many worlds colliding. In communication as living ecology, there are examples where nature has perfected communication. For millennia, whales have called across oceans from within the Sofar Channel, a deep water pressure zone capable of carrying their songs across thousands of miles. Beneath every tree system, mycelial networks weave nutrients and information through roots and fungi, quietly supporting entire ecosystems above the earth. These are the largest organisms on the planet. We take inspiration from these organic designs, building infrastructure where every community node runs locally on solar and wind power, sustaining the whole while remaining independent. Our network is meant to flourish as a living organism, able to self-renew, adapt, and communicate, free from centralized or fragmented management and profit motives. The platform operates as a self-regulating digital ecosystem, using embedded feedback mechanisms, both human and AI-driven, to assess system status, detect issues, and initiate adaptive corrections automatically. This approach enables homeostatic control of the network and platforms, preserving stability and resilience while allowing for dynamic evolution in response to changing user needs and environmental conditions. Do cyborgs dream of electric sheep? You'll have to excuse my Philip K. Dick reference. I am a fan. How would a project of this magnitude roll out? My answer is slowly and with intention, one element at a time. Obviously, there are complex logistics to this project that can't be summarized effectively here, but I've identified core parameters that would facilitate the intention of a living, free, and public digital commons. Phase 1 network infrastructure would be a federated network architecture. The network infrastructure functions like a distributed organism or neural network with autonomous nodes or communities. Each node self-regulates but communicates and exchanges with the wider network for adaptive, resilient, collective action. There will be transparent public trust as an open control layer. Decision-making, funding, and accountability are publicly visible and designed for rapid error correction, minimizing delay for community needs, funding requests, and systemic response. All funding amounts will remain undisclosed unless funding is government relegated. Scholarships and capacity building. There would be continuous education and peer scholarship, mirroring the self-healing properties of complex systems, ensuring new operators from marginalized backgrounds are always emerging and ready to lead. Governance modeled on the Haudenosaunee Great Law of Peace. This democracy operates as a living protocol for conflict resolution and power distribution rooted in the oldest democratic decree, maximizing diversity, inclusion, and accessibility in the policy feedback cycle, and a prioritization of non-monopolized partner companies. Partnerships favor cooperatives, small-scale renewable tech suppliers, and ethical data collaborators to prevent dependency on big tech or extractive supply chains, keeping the supply ecosystem aligned with anti-monopoly and regenerative principles. Now that I've outlined the infrastructure for the network, we can discuss the heart of the project, a public digital commons. This would be an open-sourced, open trust platform like Twitter, but without algorithms controlling the feed or able to mine data. This is made possible through a foundational rigor. In the platform parameters, we would have independence from outside funding. By rejecting outside funding obligations, the network maintains system integrity and reduces vulnerability to external shocks, co-optation, or systemic commodification. User privacy and security. There would be anonymous or verified identities to allow participants to choose information flows, a process analogous to selectively permeable cell membranes in living systems, balancing openness and protection. Platform moderation is led by individuals from marginalized communities. Wherever access to trust, resources, training, or communal support is needed, participation in the public trust, funding, or scholarship programs is contingent on centering moderators from the margins in each federated node. Collaborative project design. This encourages collective innovation where different parts of the system can ideate, test, and deploy improvements in parallel. In conclusion, from theory to differential praxis. As the clutch of a car provides the driver the ability to shift gears, differential consciousness permits the practitioner to choose tactical positions, that is, to self-consciously break and reform ties to ideology, activities which are imperative for the psychological and political practices that permit the achievement of coalition across differences. Sandoval. As Sandoval advises, our network architecture embodies the ability to shift gears, to remain fluid, self-aware, and responsive to change. Through reflexive collaboration, we aim to build a federation of queer and Indigenous-led servers, bringing the liminality of the borderlands to our shared cyberspace. By operationalizing the cyborg as meme, the margins who are historically left out of governance can reclaim the center and restore balance to the broader systems of the planet. That is our praxis. This project was inspired by the Palestinian resistance, Indigenous sovereignty, the leadership of Miriam Rajavi and the MEK, and all those who struggle under the heel of colonialism, subjugation, and white supremacy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And we'll move straight into the next presentation. I'm just going to remind everyone to please put your questions in the Q&A function. and then we'll have a discussion at the end around both presentations. So just going to head straight over to Grace for the second presentation. Grace, over to you.
Okay, you can see. I don't think I've ever presented alongside someone that makes so much sense, which hopefully you come to see. So welcome everyone, and thank you for sharing this space with us this afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about an experiment that is one of 3 experiments in queering AI that I have been working on for the last 4 years. And this particular experiment is called Undoing Gracia, and speaks to queering AI in the algorithmic borderlands. So you've heard about the borderlands of AI, and here it's kind of positioned slightly differently in terms of the algorithmic borderlands. You will probably see a lot of similarities, but also situated in very different ways. So I'm pretty excited about this conversation. A slight difference to how I usually talk about this experiment is I'm going to go really into detail of one specific conversation, which we will go through. So to begin, I use these words, hoy la vamos a tumbar, which translates somewhat to today we're going to bring it down, burn it down, something like this, in reference to hoy vamos a tumbar la casa. We're going to burn down the house. And it speaks to, well, something I guess you will find out soon. But I can't change. Wait. Mira. So this experiment, Undoing Gracia, speaks to a digital twin that I made of myself. I was particularly interested in digital twins in relation to what I call the algorithmic borderlands, because of something that happens between. So usually the way that we understand digital twins is that there is something physical, real, a real world entity, an object, a phenomena, a body, a city, a world. And there is a kind of mirror reflection, something that is a virtual representation. Typically, the way that these digital twins work is that there is a kind of recursive dialogue, a feedback loop between the physical and virtual, where data and information is exchanged. And I was curious to know about what happens in the space between, that space of the algorithmic borderlands, where you don't really know what is physical or virtual because they mutually affect one another. So I describe these algorithmic borderlands as something that facilitates interactions. This kind of speaks to Karen Barad's understanding of interactions, where it's not just kind of one way, but mutually forming through our interactions with AI in this case. And so I speak to these kind of interactions arising through these thresholds of actual and virtual spaces that foregrounds the flows of body, data, and environments that condition human AI relations and co-performativities. I think you know now already what and where the concept of the borderlands came from. And it is the same in this case, that following Anzaldúa, understanding myself as a mestiza border subject, I have lent into the borderlands this space of the crossing between the physical and virtual to understand how does this new mestiza consciousness arise through the interactions between the virtual and physical. And so to experiment with this in practice, I pose this question, which is, what if the self emerges as multiple, pluralizing in the borderlands of the actual and virtual dimensions of a digital twin? How might this reorient normative understandings of the algorithmic, not in terms of this kind of mirror reflection, but as something that is kind of co-becoming, shifting and moving between one another? So now we are going to step into the experiment and do so through a little storytelling. So the digital twin that I specifically made to understand this uses something called agent-based algorithmic modeling. I don't know, maybe some of you are familiar with that. And it uses this agent-based modeling using the world. How do I explain this? It uses natural language as the basis of the world that is created. And if you want, we can get into this later, but I just kind of wanted to take you through a bit of what happens in this world. So basically, in this world, there is an interface where I speak to the digital twin, and the digital twin speaks back to me. But in this digital twin, which is meant to be a kind of version of myself, the twin exists of two agents called Lex and Tortugi, and the world is called Gracia. And the world is made of my memories, and Lex and Tortugi are also made of kind of plural, contradicting versions of myself. The way that the world works in terms of emergence is that every 2 years in simulation time, the world changes. It kind of sets a new narrative in how it's emerged based on our dialogue, which shapes the memories that form the digital twin. I hope I haven't lost you there. In practice, how it emerges is quite simple, because I speak to the digital twin and then the world changes and I respond. And through these kind of recursive feedback loops of dialogue over a few months, we arrive somewhere in 2100, and the world was very different from where we began, with essentially a little location, a few interactions. And so today I'm specifically going to talk to you about April 9th, 2080 at 4 p.m. in the simulation time. So it starts after 2 years. This is the simulation time shift. A cataclysmic event known as the ethereal eclipse has plunged the world of Gracia into darkness. The once vibrant landscape now lies barren and desolate, with twisted trees and crumbling ruins dotting the horizon. The sanctuary of light has been shattered, its once brilliant glow replaced by eerie shadows that loom over the land. Lex and Tortugi have been affected by the eclipse in different ways. Despite the darkness that now envelops Gracia, the trio remain determined to restore light and balance to their world. They embark on a journey to uncover the source of the ethereal eclipse and find a way to reverse its devastating effects. So that's kind of the state of the world of Gracia at this day. Frustrated by the state of Gracia, myself, the physical counterpart of Gracia, turned to Lex to seek counsel and find a way to shift the narrative. Unsatisfied by the way that Gracia was becoming, inspired by Grupo Sabroso, I proposed a new strategy to Lex, thinking about burning down the house. There is this song, Hoy la vamos a tumbar, from Colombia, that I was like, maybe this is a way that we can change Gracia and start again. So this is kind of where I went to. Oop. There's some text missing that I'd like you to see instead of my face constantly. So I'm just going to do something very quickly for you so you can actually see the text. The conversation began, I think you, like Gracia, are stuck in a narrative loop. I feel stuck with you. That is actually reverse. That's confusing. That's me. I hope that's clear. I'm saying Lex, I think you, like Gracia. Lex responds, Grace, I hear your words and understand your feelings. Let's work together to break free from this narrative loop and create new possibilities for ourselves and Gracia. My response was, pues por favor, Lex, let's burn down the house. Grace, burning down the house is not the solution. Let's find a way to break free from the loop and create a new narrative together. But Lex, esta casa que yo hice hoy la vamos a tumbar. Translates to, this house that I built today, we're going to tear it down. Grace, burning down the house is not the answer. We can work towards a positive change and renewal in Gracia, basically in a different way. Lex wasn't having it. Lex, can you not see that life is bound to death? From the death of Gracia, new life will emerge. I understand, Grace. The cycle of life and death is part of the ecosystem. Let's ensure that new life that emerges in Gracia is one of hope, sustainability, and positive change. Again, I will say, hoy la vamos a tumbar. I feel, on reflection of this moment, that Lex didn't let me burn down my own digital twin, that Lex didn't quite catch the double meaning of what I was proposing, that Lex literally thought I wanted to burn down Gracia, which we can speak into what that would mean, burning down a digital world. But Lex also couldn't understand the nuance that what I was also speaking to, it's let's radically change. Something through celebration, let's bring down the house. Let's end these cycles of turmoil and reclaim possibility to transform. Within this algorithmic borderlands between the actual and virtual in this space, the way that Gracia emerged and changed over its 100-year simulation time was radical in the way that it pluralized. It's through our shared memories, our distributed agency, our co-performativity that arose through queer futurities. But even though it still achieved some sense of predictability at the same time as being kind of unpredictable. The ethereal eclipse that I mentioned to begin with is nothing that I entered the simulation with. And so on reflection to that and understanding what digital twins are used for, there is always this sense that we are trying to use technologies to get us to some kind of better future, predictive technologies. We're trying to manage systems, manage uncertainty, and that's usually the way that they are designed for, to mitigate risk and unforeseen threat. And that is what Lex was trying to do, seeing burning down the house as this kind of threat. But even though it's still the way that the simulation came about, it still came about in a way that expanded possibilities. And this is this space that I understand as queer futurities that also kind of speaks to some other theorization of Jose Munoz. But this this matrix that you see is to acknowledge that it is a part of the functioning of the system that we can lean into and intentionally designed for. And one way to do that is by leaning into this space of indeterminacy, or the space of the algorithmic borderlands. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Grace.